It is Tuesday morning, so y'all know what that means. Standing in at 6 feet tall, 179 pounds. My man Tony is in the building. How we feeling today?
6 feet, 179. These is very s- junior wide receiver numbers.
Sophomore. I gave you Ryan Williams height and weight because you've been bailing
That's
me out.
fair.
So
That's fair enough.
ain't a bad comparison. Ain't a bad weight class to be in. Um,
No, it's not. It's not.
so let's start with this. So I got a whole bunch of pushback last week in regards to how just certain narratives around certain second year QBs. And again, I think lost in all what was considered hate to Caleb. I was like, I got the Bears finishing second in the division. I think they make the playoffs. Um, I think a lot of the stuff that's come out of the reporting is kind of what Caleb wanted. Is like all this talk about like Ben Johnson's on their ass and he's pulling guys. Like that's what the Bears players complained about last year. Is that Eberflus didn't do any of that and they were just kind of
Right.
out there doing it themselves. So to me, that's a good sign, despite how the story is
Yeah.
written. But we got
Accountability.
yeah, but we got 6 second-year QBs who all either are. I think one is like firmly established. Jaden Daniels, I think, is kind of in his own class right now. Obviously, into the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you've got um, the other guys who either played well or you just believe in the talent so much. And then you got McCarthy and Penix, who didn't. Penix played a little bit, McCarthy not at all last year, so they're baseline in the rookie years. What is
Okay.
your expectation or your feeling? Because to say all 6 guys make it, I feel like I could make a case, but it would also be a first ever. Like you just don't get 6 quarterbacks out of one draft class. So like, what is your realistic expectation for year 2 for a lot of these guys?
Um, I would say realistically, realistically they're in a good spot. Jaden is going to be in. I think he'll be in conversations for those top five guys, and I know he's right there now for a lot of people. Um, talk about talk about Drake. I'm very high on Drake, I think, and I'm bullish on the Patriots. I think Drake is going to take a step. Um, and I'm excited to see how that looks. Talk about Caleb. I like where the Bears were at last year. Obviously, I just think that the coaching was just in a very bad place. I just don't think the coaching was in a good spot, and because of that, they suffered. But I'm excited to see what this looks like under Ben Johnson, and then obviously the moves they made in the offseason. You look at Bo Nix. Um, it's interesting to see if they can take the step to where offense isn't so schemed up because it's heavy scheme, and that's a Sean Payton thing anyway. But you also have to have the ability to um, put the ball in his hands and let him make the plays, because everybody won't always be where they need to be. And as there's more tape on all of these guys, but specifically somebody like Bo Nix, who in comparison to a lot of the other guys outside of Drake May, but Drake's a very unique talent within himself. He doesn't have, the best supporting cast. He's got a really good O line that can carry. Interesting to see how the run game goes after last year not really being the most dynamic. If he can get a healthy Cortland Sutton season, obviously that helps. And then having Ingram and other seasons from their secondary receivers, that goes a long way. Michael Penix is in a place where I really like for him as far as having the number one top receiver, probably the best receiver in that division as I think about it. Um,
Mike Evans for that
having
award.
Yeah, I'd take Drake London today, but
I agree
but
with you.
and what can he get out of Kyle Pitts? Like, I don't think Kyle Pitts has done himself any good with how he's played, but I also don't think he's been given a lot based on where they've been at with like coaching staff and scheme and system and things like that. So it's going to be interesting for him. I'm excited to see what JJ McCarthy looks like. I was very excited for his rookie year before the injury. I thought he showed a lot of good signs in the preseason. And then I also went back and looked at his Michigan tape, and there was a lot more there than I thought I'd like. He was really good. He was clutch. His deep ball was really he threw a really nice deep ball. And I think having a dynamic quarterback, someone with dual threat ability to go along with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and what they got in Minnesota is I think it can open up another dynamic that they haven't had coming off of years of Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. Um, and then who would be the other guy? I'm blanking right now.
We already did Caleb, Jaden, Drake, Penix, Bo. Not everybody. Penix, Bo, and JJ.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
yeah, so
everybody.
that's where I'm at with everybody, man. I'm excited to see how these year two guys look. I don't think we're in a place where motherfuckers can get necessarily exposed and or things like that. Like Caleb had his struggles. It wasn't always the prettiest football. I don't put all of that on him, but he definitely takes some of that blame. Drake was just in a spot with not a lot of support. I think Jaden probably caught a lot of people off guard, and it's going to be interesting to see how that looks now with more prep for him. But I think he holds up, and that's one of the plus sides of being a older quarterback coming into the NFL. Like I said, for Bo, is going to be one of those things was interesting to see if if they can catch up to the tape and kind of work around the scheme, or if he's taking the next step. Him also being like an older guy coming into the league, and for Michael and JJ, what does it look like? Actually getting starting reps over an extended period of time. Penix had, I think, maybe like a handful of less games, and then obviously JJ didn't play at all, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting.
No, and I feel there's a couple that I'm trying to get ahead of because I think they're going to be extremely unfair. I think it's be people that try to attack Jaden at the end of the season because you finished what is theoretically one of the last four teams in football because you made it to the NFC Championship game. I
Hmm.
don't think I'm going to look at Jaden any less if he gets to only, the divisional round this year. Like, if you don't make the conference championship game in year two, I'm not looking at it as like, oh shit, you went backwards. Um, and that's, I think, the one narrative he's going to have to fight. Right now, it's all Jaden Daniels love, and he deserves all that. But if you go just the way a lot of people like to do with clicks, hot takes, if you don't get as far as you did the year before, they love to thought regression. Um, Another thing that generally works, and I don't know if it's just because teams start to lose their mind, a lot of great all time quarterbacks somehow find themselves in the most dysfunctional divisions ever. Brady is the easy answer. The AFC East was asked almost the entirety of the time he was in there, which is why not only his greatness, but there's a reason why they stacked up division title after division title. And again, some of that is like the craziness of, oh, I got to go catch this guy, and you maybe draft a guy too high, or you make a wrong free agent signing because you're solely focused on capturing this great quarterback.
Right.
Excuse me. The AFC West has had this a lot of the last 7, 8 years. Hasn't been a lot of great teams in the AFC West. So Mahomes is not only great, he's also playing the division where ain't a lot of great teams chasing him either. And now I think both the AFC North and AFC East are starting to fall into this where it's like you're chasing Lamar in the North and you're chasing Josh Allen in the East. And I'm like, I'll stick with the North here. Is Cleveland's not giving Shedeur Sanders any first team reps, which is wild because then you're basically saying, hey, we only drafted him because of the owner, which has its own faults, meaning you wasted draft capital on a guy that you weren't going to give first team reps or serious consideration for a quarterback room that is Kenny Pickett. No one's calling for him to be a starter. Joe Flacco, who it's like cool story that he's there, but he's 40. And Dylan Gabriel, who people can say what they want about Bo Nix. You want to compare past Oregon quarterbacks where they rank. It's like you got like he's not losing out to somebody that's great. The Bengals just finally signed their first round pick after some of the most ridiculous rookie contract signings ever. And then the Steelers, let's give TJ Watt the bag and throw 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers out there. Do you view the AFC North, which is generally considered a stronger division, starting to trend towards being dysfunctional besides the Ravens?
Trend towards being dysfunctional. I mean, I want to say like it's always been dysfunctional, It just that's just the nature of the teams that play there. And the Ravens are not immune from they're not what's the word I'm looking for? Not immune, but they're not they're not
Invaluable,
exempt.
like not perfect. Oh,
They're not exempt from fucking being in this conversation of dysfunction. Like it just took them months to let go of the sexual assault accused kicker. And then on the way out, they fucking gave him a a heartfelt letter. So it's like they're not they can't be
that's
frowning their nose up at these other franchises. Um
valid.
I it's a division that has teams with so many faults, and the Ravens just don't have as many outside of the normal football things. Like the Ravens have depth essentially at most positions. They're in a good spot with most, but it doesn't, an injury quickly turns things up on its head. As for the Ravens, as I said on this show, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Um, but that's normal football stuff. It's not, oh well, your best defensive player, you have not paid him his worth or his just due. It's not, oh, you have drafted the quarterback of the famous Hall of Fame player, and you're probably not giving him the fair opportunity because you don't like his attitude, or you don't like the ego of his father, or you don't like his ego. And it's like that's not fair. In the case of Pittsburgh, it's, oh well, this is an aging roster that continues to be good enough to not bottom out, but not good enough to exceed the ceiling they've placed on themselves. And I just think when you look at the Ravens, they're not in that place. Now, having number eight plays a big part in that. If they didn't have number eight, they'd
Oh,
probably be in a much shittier space than they are. Granted, the roster is still really good, but it's just a matter of consistency. It's a matter of having, great talent in the building and a culture that puts you in a place where you can compete for a title. Pittsburgh used to have that. They haven't had that since Ben Roethlisberger retired because they haven't let themselves bottom out to where they can go into the future with a dynamic guy, same as Cincinnati or the Ravens. And granted, the Ravens didn't get Lamar by bottoming out, but they put themselves in a position where they could move on from Joe Flacco, and they were whatever the results were going to be with Lamar were going to be the results. But they made up their mind that he's going to take them to the next level. Um, and I just think that it's a division that's stuck in its own way. And the Ravens, who, for all their faults, they aren't going to hold themselves back from competing for a title. If that means cutting guys because they don't fit what's going on in the building, if that means taking some flyers on guys with maybe attitude problems or physical problems, they're going to take the chances to compete for the championship, and the other teams in the division just aren't.
no, it's valid. The really quick, I know we already touched on it a little bit.
Hmm.
Why do you feel like the Browns aren't giving Shador like a chance? Again, this is not a it'd be one thing if, for example, like if you had a quality quarterback and maybe they were just older and you wanted to, potentially draft someone for potential, fine. This is not a super impressive quarterback room. Like, so what, besides just being the Browns and they just do dumb shit, like what is the reasoning for not like even feeling like giving Shador a shot at potentially winning this job?
It's a humbling, it's a humbling thing. Is look at they don't see the value in him the way we do as fans. And that's a them problem, that as they say, that's a them thing, and they have to deal with that. Why they draft him in the first place is who knows? They took him in the fifth. It's not like they took him early as they could have. They took him where they took him. Um, I'm not going to sit here and say that they aren't giving him the opportunity because they just don't think he's good enough, because that's just not true. But I think it's it's a political situation going on, and this is just where we're at with it. Like they'd be more comfortable going into this season and not having, I guess, the distraction of Shador Sanders, whatever that means. And, if that's how they feel, fine. But this is why your organization is where it is, because you take the wrong bets and you make the wrong choices. And if the Deshaun Watson thing showed us anything, is that this just is not the best decision-making franchise.
No, that's a fact. Um, Last thing before we get you out of here. So the world sometimes I think I have opinions that I know are probably just me kind of things. And sometimes I say them, sometimes I keep them in my head. I just assumed we all thought, and this is, I know some of it is taking the topic versus the person. I thought we all knew who Cam Newton was, especially for that first part of his career. You take that last year of college at Auburn to what he was, first overall pick, what he did in Carolina going 2015. I thought we all knew who he was. Now, you can argue Cam didn't age the most gracefully. Some of that is because he took some of those violent hits you could, because he was 6'6", 250, and he was more than willing to run somebody over. So he didn't age gracefully. But from that year at Auburn up till 2015, I'm like, there's an argument he's one of the 5 best football players on the planet.
Yeah.
And because he said Jalen Hurts isn't top 10, it just, for some reason, everybody was like, no, let's tell you about your legacy. Am I tripping, or did I have a different experience? Did we all not know who Cam Newton was from Auburn up until 2015?
The Cam
Like
Newton Jalen
why be
Hurts
attacked?
thing, it's a perfect encapsulation of why people do not like Philadelphia sports fans, because everything's personal. It's no real it's no real sight to the things that they beef about. And it's like Cam, let's look at it like this. Cam said Jalen Hurts is in the top 10 quarterback. I disagree. But
Yeah,
I am
same.
not going to I am not going to say that I'm not going to take that and say, well, Cam Newton, you didn't win a Super Bowl, so you can't be talking about Jalen Hurts. Like, number one, let's look at it like this. Cam Newton is a Heisman winner. He's the first overall pick in the NFL draft. Went on to have a 15-1 season with the Carolina Panthers en route to the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl, becoming the MVP in that same season. Cam Newton lost the Super Bowl to one of the best defenses of all time. And he lost that Super Bowl not in part because he was bad, but because the defense was very great and the pieces around him showed why he shouldn't even been in the fucking Super Bowl in the first place. You look at that Carolina Panthers team that he took to the Super Bowl, it's insane. He was throwing to Ted Ginn and Jericho Cotchery. Like he took that core of guys to the Super Bowl. No disrespect to Greg Olson, but he took that core of receivers. He took that offensive line. He took that group, that skill group, to the Super Bowl. And yeah, he had good running backs, obviously. And that Panthers defense was nothing to sneeze at either. And that game was
Good
kept
defense.
relatively close until it wasn't
Yeah.
anymore. It's not like the Panthers just went in there and lost 40 to fucking 6. Like they just couldn't do much against the Broncos defense, as many teams could not. So it's the same Broncos defense that beat fucking Tom Brady the week before or 2 weeks before. So it's like it's just one of those things where it's just the wrong fan base to get into this back and forth with. Like if this was said about a fan base much different than the Eagles or Philadelphia in general, it'd be a much different conversation. It'd be a much easier conversation to have. But this was just not the right group of people to get into this with.
No, it's valid. And people started pulling up. They're like, "Oh, well, Cam had 6 All Pros on that team," and I'm like, "Fam, Cam was one of the All Pros. Then there was his center, and then it was his fullback. Like, and the other 3 were on defense because it was Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and
Josh
like,
Norman.
yeah, like that job, like they did. Like, I still don't even like. Do you know how many years Ron Rivera got to keep coaching? And like, no one wants to take shots at Ron Rivera, and I'm not doing it either because he had health issues, and so I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But I don't know if Ron Rivera was a good coach. if I'm looking back on it, I'm like, you had success exactly with Carolina and Cam Newton at the peak of his powers. Congrats. I think I could get you a couple wins if I had Cam Newton and Luke Kuechly at the peak of their powers.
Hey man.
Like, I just like the job they did to lift that team. Yeah, in retrospect, like people always say, like Peyton's arm was falling off, and cool, that's correct. Denver still had a running game. Denver had the best defense in the league. Like you just said, Ted Ginn and Jericho Cotchery got strapped up by Talib and Chris Harris, and they had DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller running after you. I want to see how many people like ever perform well in that Super Bowl. But hey,
Not
man,
many.
shout out to Cam.
Not many.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's like great, and it's like, and I'm fair. I'm like, when you have all-time great defenses, there's a reason why, and it's because of what they do in the Super Bowl. The Legion of Boom. They smacked Denver by 40. Like, that gets you in that all-time class. 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, 02 Bucks. Like, that whole of the 2000 Ravens, that was just, y'all were violent.
They
And
had
man, with that being
49
said,
turnovers that year.
no, they got records that'll literally now partially because you can't play that way anymore. When you look at, because I tried to make the case for the no-fly zone and even the Legion of Boom, and I'm like, they have great numbers for like the current NFL, but I'm like, oh, you can't do what the 2000 Ravens and 85 Bears did. 85 Bears were getting damn near double-digit sacks in games, and I'm like, you just can't line up like 8 niggas like that anymore and just tell it, yo, we coming. And
It's a different world for sure.
yeah. But don't forget, you can always check Tony out. Group Chat Podcast. New episode dropped yesterday at the time y'all hear this. And y'all hear him every Tuesday morning on HardFoul Radio. Appreciate you, bro. Catch you next week.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if you want to be a part of one of the coolest, most unique communities, don't forget to like and subscribe.